Jai Jaya Jaya Sri Guru. Aha. Jaya Jaya Sri Guru. Prema Kala Pataru Adabhuta Jako Paraka Adabhut Jako Paraka Iya Agyana Timira Porogyan Suchandra Kirane Karuna Suchandra Kirane Karuna Iha Iha Ihalochananandadam Ajachita mohena Patita heri jo pahu Jachi deolo harina Jachi deolo harina Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Prema Kalapataro Adabhuta Jako Paraka Adabhuta Jako Paraka Aduramati Agati Satataya Satamati Aduramati Agati Satataya Satamati Nahi ko Sukriti Lobole Nahi ko Sukriti Lobole Shri Vrindavana Jugala Bhajana Dana Shri Vrindavana Jugala Bhajana Dana Mohe Korolo Upade Mohe Korolo Upade Niramala Gora Prema Rasa Sinchane Niramala Gora Prema Rasa Sinchane Puralo sab moneraya Puralo sab monera So charana So charanam buje rati nahi ho alone. Guruvata Vaishnava Das Guruvata Vaishnava Das Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Premantalam Patarum Jaya Jaya Sri Guru Prema Kalapataru Adabhuta Jako Parakas Adabhuta Jako Parakas Adabhuta Jako Parakas. Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Nitai 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 Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Nitai 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 Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Gauranga Jai Jai Jasodanandana Shachi Sutta Gaurachandra Jai Jai Rohini Nandana Balarama Nityananda Jai Jai Mahavishnu Avatar Sri Advaita Chandra Jai Jai Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Khandavasi Narahari Murari Mukunda Jai Jai Swarup Rupa Sanatana Rai Ramananda Jai Jai Auriya Gauriya Jata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Hayache na hobe na jata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Tomra Sabai Mili Sabai Mili Daya Karo Daya Karo He Daya Daya Karo Sabai Mili Daya Karo Ami Ati Manda Jena Akul Prane Gaite Pari Jena Janme Janme Gaite Pari Hanitai 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 Gauranga Jana Janme Janme Gaite Pari Janme Janme Gai Jeno Hanitai Gauranga Janme Janme Gai Jeno Hanitai Gauranga Anjana Akul Prane Gaite Pari Hanitai Gauranga Hanitai Gauranga Hanitai Gauranga Hanitai Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Dvaita Gauranga Jai Jai Nityananda Nityananda Dvaita Chandra Gaurangam Jai Jai Sachisutam Jaya Vishnu Priya Pranana Jai Jai Gadadhara Sakha Jai Jai Narahari Pran Jai Jai Bhaktanang Paradevata Iti Jai Jai Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Gaurahari 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 Nam Srashtham Manumapi Shachi Putramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamurupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Prasita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tannatosmi Yasya Brahmeti Sangyam Kvachidapi Nigame Yati Chinmatra Sattha Pyangsho Yasyangsha Kaiksvai Vibhavati Vashayan Eva Mayang Pumanscha Ekam Yasya Eva Rupam Ma Vilasati Parama Vyomni Narayanakyam Sa Sri Krishno Vidhattam Swayamiha Bhagavan Prema Tatpada Bhajam Gaura Shama Rucho Jalabira Balai Rakshnor Vilaso Tsavai Nrityanti virashesha madana kala vaidaghyati gatma bhi Anyonyam priyata sudha parimala stomon madabhi sada Radha Madhava Madhuri Birabita Chittang Mama Kramyatam Guru Shastram Shraddha Ruchir Anugati Siddhiriti Me Yadetat Tat Sarvam Charana Kamalam Rajati Yayo Kripa Madhvi Kena Snapita Nayana Yuga Nayanam Puja Yugalo Sada Radha Krishna Asharanagati Tau Mamagati Adi Bifalita Prabhadita Sanandamalokita Pratyashang Sumanah Falodaya Vidho Samodamamodita Vrindaranya Bhuvi Prakasha Madhura Sarvati Sai Sriya Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ullalasa Kalpa Drumaha Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ullalasa Kalpa Drumaha Jayati Jayati Nama Nandarupam Murare Viramita Nija Dharma Dhyana Puja Diyatnam Katamapi Sakridatam Muktidam Praninam Yat Paramamamritamekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me Paramamamritamekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And so we continue with our reading of this Priti Sandarbha. And first we find our page. So, yes, I remember now where we are. We're somewhere around here. Okay. So my mouse has died, and I have to use the keyboard or use this mouse pad here, which is totally useless. All right, we're right at the end of this here. I think we read this one already before. Nevertheless, I would like to go over it again. So where were we? So we're still talking about moksha, right? So then the functional meaning of the word apavarga, right? So he was talking about apavarga. So he was quoting this verse from the 5th canto. So the word apavarga was used there. So now apavarga, he's giving it a special meaning. It's not really a special meaning. He's applying the meaning. So apavarjate, he's saying. What did he say here? So it says tatrapavarga shabdasya pravritting gatayati. So now he's going to see what he can squeeze out of this word apavarga. So nana gatinang nimittang yo avidya grantis tasya randhanam. Okay, so all this is from the verse, right? From the Bhagavata verse itself. It says nana gatinang nimittang yo avidya granthi tasya randhanam. Randhanam atra dvangsanam. And so the destruction of the of this granthi, of this knot that binds one by ignorance to the material world. So that was already just being explained, was it not? Or well, it was being explained right there in the very first anuchhed, right? Why the jiva is suffering. So at any rate, and the cause there was given that tattva, parama tattva sakshatkara rupatvena paramananda rupatvam. There was something that was stated back there. Right, so nana gatinang nimittam yo, so taking high birth, low birth, those are the nana gatis that are being talked about here. So nana gatinam nimittam, so nimittam here means cause. So the cause of all these gatis is avidya, the avidya granthi, because we're tied to the material world by ignorance. And so therefore that is the cause, that's what's the cause of the problem. Right? And also in the first anuchhed, it was just saying there also that sukha prapti is the primary prayojana. And dukkha nivritti is the associate prayojana. So this, all the purusharthas, the ultimate purushartha is sukha prapti. But then we have to assess, we have to know how to measure, we have to know how to judge, we have to know how to understand what parama sukham is. Well, that's only understood by experience. But there, we're looking for sukha prapti. So if tattva sakshatkar, if this knowledge, this awareness of God, if we directly perceive God internally at all times, then we're always situated in jnanam, we're always situated in knowledge. That is ultimately what knowledge is. Knowledge means to be conscious of and aware of God at all times. So if the Paramatattvam, so there it was stated in the, I'm just remembering because I just read that for the, just read the Sanskrit for that. So the cause of not having this happiness is ignorance, is avidya. The cause of suffering is this avidya. Because of this avidya, we take on these material identities, these upadhis. Because of this, because because we don't realize or don't understand what is our destiny. We don't understand who we really are. We don't really understand what is our purpose, what is our true destiny. Just like Romulus and Remus, they were brought up by wolves. They didn't know, they thought they were wolves. They had to be reassimilated into human society. They had to learn that they weren't wolves, but that they were human beings. So the destiny of every living being is to be a servant of God, is to be unified with God in love. So if because the supreme truth is Ananda, is Ananda. Ko hi vanyat kah pranyat yad esha akasha anandaha nasyat. So, nanagatinam nimittang yo avidya grantis tasya randhanam. That is the lakshanam, that is the meaning of the word apavarga. So that's apavarjanam. So there's the Sanskrit word apavarjanam, apavrij. So that root with the prefix apa, chedanam iti yavat, means cutting off. That's what he says here. It has other meanings also, but if you take it to its limit, then the limit is cutting off. Right? So randhanam, I don't know, randhanam, I thought that randhanam meant cooking or burning. Well, I'll go look it up later. But at any rate, he says that randhanam here means that the randhanam, so randhanam, then he says apavarjanam chedanamiti yavat, because the word apavarjanam means cutting off. So that's what it is. All the avidya granthi, which is the cause of material bondage, that is cut off. So that is what apavarjanam, that's what apavarga means. So tatadvarena yosau apavarga uchyate, and it's because of this that it is known as apavarga, because it's coming from, this is its etymology. Apravrijyate yena iti niruktaya, or niruktya iti bhava. He seems just to says it is, or that by which one is cut off. So the apavarga is the actor here, and the apavarga is cutting one off from one's misery. So padmottara khandecha Vishnur anucharatvam hi moksham ahur manishinaha. So serving Vishnu is called moksha by the wise. Thoughtful sages call servitorship to Bhagavan Vishnu moksha or liberation. So tata skande reva khande nischala tvai bhaktirya saiva muktir janadana mukta eva hi bhaktaste tava Vishnu yato harehe. Yeah, not quite sure about that. Something's wrong. O Janardana, that devotion to you that is unflinching is alone called mukti. Because, O Vishnu, O Bhagavan Hari, only the liberated are your devotees. So Bhagavan Krishna also intended the same thing while giving solace to Rukmini. So having said, whatever boons you desire in relation to me, O auspicious lady, in order to be free from all desires, are ever possessed by you because you are devoted exclusively to me, O affectionate one. So Sri Srukmini Santwane Sri Bhagavatapi Evam Abhipretam Tang Prati Santi Hyekanta Bhaktaya Satava Iti Uktva Mang Prapya Manini apavarga sampadang vanchanti ye sampada eva tat patim. Ah. All right, so you say everybody else is wanting to have these things and you already have them. The things that everybody else wants, the apavarga that everybody else wants, you have that already. So whatever boons you desire in relation to me, O auspicious lady, in order to be free from all desires. Right? So it's not in the verse there. I was looking. Are ever possessed by you because you are devoted exclusively to me, O affectionate one. Whatever boons you desire in relation to me, O auspicious lady, in order to be free from all other desires, are ever possessed by you because you are devoted exclusively to me, O affectionate one. So that shows some of the difficulties in making a nice, harmonious sentence. He later says, O proud lady, they are indeed unfortunate who, having attained me, the bestower of apavarga, as well as material wealth, hanker only for the material wealth and not me, because these things can be obtained even in hell. For them, hell is available because they are only after sense pleasures. Well, that sounds a bit strange to me. Let's find that verse. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. 53. Mam prapya manini apavarga sampadam vanchanti ye sampada eva tatpatim te manda bhagya nirayepi ye nranam matratmakatvan nirayah susangamaha. Te mandabhagya nirayepi ye nranam matratmakatvat nirayaha su sangamaha. Yeah, there's something wrong with that translation. I don't like that very much. Anyway, let's leave it for now. I see it a little bit differently. It doesn't look to me like I worked on this verse very hard. All right, so ata eva kaivalya sammattapatas tvata bhakti yogaha jnanam yada pratinivritta gumormi chakvam. That's the first line. Let me do that one too. This is a good, I always enjoyed this verse. I want to make a habit out of whenever I don't know the verse to just go and look it up. Remember this verse. I should know this verse. This is one of the earlier verses that I learned in my life. Come on. Dvitiya, tritiya, atra. Jnanam yada pratinivritta gunormi chakram atma prasada utayatra guneshva sangaha kaivalya samamata patastvata bhakti yogaha ko nirvrito harikatasu ratin nakuryat. So this is coming right there He's glorifying Hari Katha again, Shukadev. So when you have jnana, then after that comes bhakti yoga. So jnanam yada pratinivritta gunormi chakra atma prasada utayatra guneshwa sangha kaivalya sammata pata stvata bhakti yoga ko nirvrito harikatasu ratim na kuryat. Anyway, so here ata eva kaivalya sammata patastvata bhakti yoga ityatra tika karairapyuktam kaivalyam iti esh eva sammataha pantha yo bhakti yoga. So kaivalyam iti eva sammata pantha yo bhakti yoga. So here he's equivalent in making kaivalyam equivalent to the bhakti yoga pantha. So pantha bhagavat praptyupaya bhutopi iti arsaha. So here again he's saying that the word pantha means bhagavat praptyupaya. It is the way by which one can attain Bhagavan. The takhula takhalu kada syat tadaha yadahi. Where did that yadahi come in here? Where's the yadahi? Oh, the yadahi was from the Bhagavata, the passage that we were reading. So the yadahi was when you have the association, when only happens when one meets a devotee. So that was yadahi. So ata eva, so that goes on. So therefore, while commenting on the statement, bhakti yoga is the approved path for attaining unicity. So there I wanted to make it literal, so I changed it to unicity, but I'll bet that they change it back to something else. But anyway, the meaning of the word is unicity, and then it's being given another meaning. You can't say that the direct meaning of kaivalya is prīti. Prīti is not a synonym of kaivalya, but it can mean that. You can understand it to mean that if you analyze the word carefully and contextually. So Sridhar Swami writes, unicity is the only approved path, which is bhakti yoga. Oh boy, that one might be, I'll bet that might be not approved. I can see that's mine. But unicity is the only approved path, which is bhakti yoga. So it implies that unicity and bhakti yoga are the same. So you can look at it from either way. It's interesting because that means that bhakti yoga, the goal of bhakti yoga is to be united. Kaivalya, it means unity, right? So yoga and kaivalya, those two words go together. That's why the goal of yoga in the Yoga Sutra is kaivalya. So yoga means kaivalya. Yoga means unity. Unity with what? Well, unity with your own swarupam, unity with the Atma. And then, as the Gita says, according to the Gita, one who attains the Atma attains the Paramatma. So therefore, Kaivalya is the approved path of Bhakti Yoga. So this is actually quite true. Now think of it in the other way, that the culture of Bhakti Yoga is the sense of identifying with or feeling a oneness with Krishna. That's what you're cultivating. You're cultivating when you think I'm going to think, you're thinking now, I'm going to think of Krishna constantly. So what is Krishna feeling right now? What is Krishna thinking right now? What does Krishna look like right now? What is Krishna saying right now? What is he doing right now? This is what you want to know. So that's being one with him, because being one with him means to be part of his being, right? That's why Sayuja is also this oneness. But really, if you, as we were discussing before, Sayuja can also be thought of as being present in all of them. Because without empathy, without that identification with Krishna's happiness, without understanding intimately, personally, how he feels when something happens. How does Krishna feel when he's walking in the woods and he steps on a thorn? This is the kind of thing that through the identification, the gopis are praying, oh, I'm worried about that. I'm even so worried that I don't want to put your foot on my breast because I'm afraid my breast is too hard for your foot. And yet with those soft feet, with those soft lotus feet, you're walking in the forest where there are all kinds of terrible, dangerous things, sharp stones, all kinds of thorns. It's not right. So this bhakti, it is a path or panta, or the means by which to attain Bhagavan. So kaivalya is a means to which to attain Bhagavan. And it is the same as bhakti yoga. So then he goes back to the original prose text and says, and when does one get it? Apavarga. The prose text answers the question, it only happens when one meets a devotee of Bhagavan. So I think I read all this. Did I read all this? I don't know. I don't remember because there were a couple of recordings that I did that were ruined. I'm just going to go on. I think this was one of the recordings that didn't work. So before the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are we getting this? Is this on the screen here? No, it's not, darn it. My apologies again. Okay, so before the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Indian thought was dominated by the idea that mukti is the highest goal of human life, or purushartha. Mahaprabhu presented a new vision about the meaning of Vedic scriptures. He said that the real purushartha is prīti. Following him, Sri Jiva Goswami wants to explain why prīti and not mukti is the true purushartha and the true intent of the scriptures. Knowing well that the transition from mukti to prīti is not easy for the traditional Indian mind, he began his thesis by first equating mukti with tattva sakshatkara. That is acceptable to those who accept mukti as purushartha. So if you go back and you look at the beginning of the discussion, at the beginning of Priti Sandarbha, Jiva doesn't right away start talking about Ishvara, talking about Bhagavan, anything like that. He talks about Paramatattva and Paramatattva Sakshatkar. So that is acceptable to those who accept mukti as the purushartha. It is supported by the Shruti. Only by realizing him one can transgress death or attain mukti. There is no other means for mukti. Only by realizing him. Tameva viditva ti mrityumeti nanya panta apanayanaya. So having done this, he moves to the next step. That's jiva. Tattva sakshatkara is possible only through bhakti or prīti. This is not well-known fact. but also not completely unacceptable, right? Because even the Advaitavadis accept that bhakti can be used as a means for attaining mukti. So if you say tattva sakshatkar is only possible through bhakti, well, that's not disagreeable to an atma, to a brahmavadi. Even though not everybody knows that, because jnanis give priority to jnana. But even so, there are some jnanis who are also very, have a tendency to bhakti. So he supported his conclusion with scriptural references. Then he established that tattva sakshatkara with prīti is the real tattva sakshatkara. And tattva sakshatkara without prīti is not really tattva sakshatkara at all. Thus he argued that mukti is the same as prīti. Right. So the real tattva sakshatkara, the real tattva sakshatkara. So you might, whatever you think tattva might mean. So tattva means Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, or Bhagavaniti. So depending on your vision, you see the tattva differently. But the full tattva sakshatkar is Bhagavat sakshatkar. And Bhagavat sakshatkar you can have only through prīti. And if a special kind of prīti, you get a special form of God. So that's good, nicely explained by Babaji here. So rising to the pedestal of prīti, so because Krishna is the object, that's why prīti is going to be more. So rising to the pedestal of prīti through the ladder of mukti, he now begins to dissociate with mukti and focus only on prīti. His intention is to establish prīti in its own glory beyond even mukti. Krishna makes a categorical declaration that no one can get mukti without bhakti, which is synonymous with prīti. This divine energy of mind, Maya, constituted of the three gunas, is indeed very difficult to surmount. Yet, those who take refuge in me alone cross over this Maya. Daivi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. So, one may argue that mukti is superior to bhakti because the latter is used as a means to reach the former. So if you say bhakti, I'm getting through bhakti, I get mukti. Such an understanding is a misconception because the verse is not limiting the outcome of bhakti to only mukti. Beyond mukti is prīti. This was shown with reference to the story of the Kumara's visit to Vaikuntha, and specifically in the words of Kapila. The reason for mukti being inferior to prīti is that in mukti there is a sense of selfishness in the form of desiring freedom from material suffering. The person desiring mukti loves Bhagavan only because he knows that Bhagavan can give him mukti. Thus, his love is motivated and not pure. But in actual prīti, there is only the desire to please Bhagavan. Thus, a prīti is most pure, shuddha, and devoid of any deceptive mentality, projita kaitava. For this reason, Sutta Goswami calls it kaivalya, pure. The word kaivalya is popularly used to mean mukti, especially by the Advaitavada school. But in the Bhagavata Purana, it has been used to mean prīti. This is called parokshavada. Parokshavada means that sometimes things are not stated directly, but that you mean something by something else. Right? So it's a code language. It's also called Sandhya Bhasha. Sometimes to fool people, you say things in a certain way that can be taken in more than one way. So those who are in the know, those who have who have some insight or belong to the secret club, they can recognize it, that kaivalya means prem. And actually, they're going to see it that way anyway, because that's the nature of the devotee, to interpret everything in accordance with bhakti. So the word kevala means only. Kaivalya means the essence of kevala. Thus, it signifies purity. In the context of this verse, it means that prayojan which is not mixed with any other desire. So, anyabilasita shunyam. This is nothing but prīti, because in prīti there is no deception and there is no other desire. There's no desire other than to please. There's no other desire except to please Bhagavan. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. From this, it is clear that according to Sutta Goswami, the real purpose of Bhagavata Purana is to teach prīti. Now, in Tattva Sandarbha and Bhagavat Sandarbha, it was explained that non-dual consciousness manifests as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Among them, Bhagavan is the most complete manifestation of Tattva. To support this, Sri Jiva Goswami returns to the discussion seen earlier. Sarva Vedanta Saram Yat Brahmatmaikatva Lakshanam Vastu Advitiyam Tan Nishtam Kaivalyaika Prayojanam. The Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy because its subject matter is the absolute truth, which is one without a second, as characterized by the oneness in love of the individual living being with Brahman. The one ultimate attainment, prayojan, proclaimed in this book is kaivalya, literally aloneness, which here implies pure devotion alone unto that supreme truth, devoid of any extraneous element. Well, that's a whole addition there. So this tattva is referred to here as advitiya vastu. And Bhagavata Purana is devoted to it, Ananishtam. This means that the Bhagavata Purana is devoted to Bhagavan, and it is from Bhagavan that it derives its name. Thus, the Kaivalya, which means prīti, is for Bhagavan, and that indeed is the subject matter of this book. Kaivalyeka prayojanam. The only purpose of this book is kaivalya, achieving kaivalya. Such an explanation of the word kaivalya is consistent with the previous verse, which describes the nature of the book. In this verse, the stories of Hari described in the book are compared to ambrosia, and saintly persons are compared to devas. This implies that the book is about prīti and not mukti, because when one has prīti for Bhagavan, he relishes the stories about him, just like ambrosia. In mukti, there is no such relish. This comparison also indicates that the book is like Mohini Avatar, who distributed the Amritam to the Devas and denied it to the Asuras. That implies that only the Deva-like devotees will understand the true meaning of Bhagavata Purana by the grace of the Purana itself. Non-devotees, however, will not get the essential truth from it. Jiva Goswami confirms, it's a long commentary. See, normally I would split this commentary up. I don't know why I didn't do it here. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms the meaning of kaivalya as prīti and not mukti by referring to the story of the Kumaras. The Kumaras were already situated in mukti, akshara jusham, but upon seeing Bhagavan, they gave up their absorption in Brahman and desired only to be engaged in bhakti, even if they had to reside in hell. If the meaning of the word kaivalya was mukti, then this story would go against mukti being the goal. They don't want mukti, they want something else besides mukti. So even if they're even ready to go to hell, so that's not a prayer for mukti. So we don't care about those external things as long as we can somehow or another remain conscious of you in all those circumstances. So because of that, we can say that bhakti is greater than mukti. So that's all he's saying. So after showing that the word kaivalya, so most of these verses though, the word kaivalya appeared somewhere along the line. That's why he's quoted them. After showing that the word kaivalya means prīti and not mukti, Sri Jiva Goswami shows that even the word apavarga, which is also popularly used to mean mukti, has been used to mean bhakti yoga in Bhagavata Purana. For this, he cites a text from the 5th canto. Such a meaning of apavarga is supported by the statements from Padma Purana and Skanda Purana. The Sridhar Swami also agrees that the word kaivalya in the 2nd canto, kaivalya sammatapanta bhakti yoga, means bhakti yoga. By this, Sri Jiva Goswami intends to show that there is no mukti without bhakti. Mukti is inferior to bhakti, and that ultimately true mukti is only bhakti. The devotees who are compared to suras or devas understand that the real meaning of the words kaivalya, apavarga, moksha, and mukti is prīti. Thus they relish the amritam in the form of harikatha or drink the Bhāgavata rasa. So these are all things that are discussed at greater length in the Priti Sandarbha. We'll stop here today, and tomorrow we'll go on with the next one. So I hope I'm on track here because I kind of got mixed up where I was. So hopefully that wasn't all repetition, but even if it was repetition, I tell you, my friends, there is nothing like repetition. Why do we chant the holy name over and 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 over? So that we'll figure it out eventually what it is that we're saying. The meaning will become clear to us. It will have sakshatkara of the meaning of the word Hare, Krishna. So repetition is good. Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda, Jai Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda. Jai Jai Radhe Krishna. गोविंद जय जय राधे कृष्ण गोविंद जय जय श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन चंद्र जय जय राधा रमन रास बिहारी श्री गोकुलानंद जय जय राधा कांत राधा विनोद श्री राधा गोविंद जय जय रासेश्वरी विनोदिनी भानुकुल चंद्र जय जय श्री रूप मंजरी आदि मंजरी अनंग जय जय पूर्णमासी कुंडलता जय वीरा वृंदा तोमरा कृपा करि देव हे जुगल चरण विंद देह जुगल चरण विंद देह जुगल चरण विंद देह जुगल चरण विंद देह जुगल चरण विंदम जय राधे कृष्ण गोविंद जय जय राधे कृष्ण गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद जय राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय श्री राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय श्री राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय श्री राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद श्री राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद जय श्री राधे गोविंद जय जय राधे कृष्ण गोविंद जय जय राधे कृष्ण गोविंद जय जय श्री श्री गुरुदेव की जय 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 श्री श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय 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 नवदीप धाम की जय भगीरथी देवी की जय 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 हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय नामनाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय 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 श्री जगन्नाथ पुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की जय 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 श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय 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 श्री जमुना मई की जय 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 श्री तुलसी महारानी की जय 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 गौ माता की जय 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 श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय 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 श्री रूप सनातन रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय 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 श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे Jaya Jaya Sri Radhe. Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Jai Jai. So we'll see you tomorrow. Jai Jai Sri